I got fed up with anthropologists, my colleagues, who are always having a downer on missionaries. Missionaries were in the way, and I knew they were in the way. They were, but this is a different thing. In the way has two meanings. Yeah. But my colleagues just wouldn't listen to anything that one said about missionaries without saying, there, you see, missionaries spoiled everything. They were rivals, really, you see. That was the point I'm trying to make. That anthropologists and missionaries were rivals. Anthropologists didn't try to make people do things, but they did try to understand them. And missionaries did the same thing, only they wanted to have a persuasive chat with any people they met. And they learned the language, which is one thing a lot of anthropologists never did, But in their books and although one knew that they had been helped by missionaries, because in private they would say, yes, well, he was a great help to me. In public, they would condemn the missionary for trying to make something else out of these people. Well, who wasn't trying to make something else of these people? I mean, you only got to take a motor car somewhere, you're trying to make something else out of them. Trying to make them interested in motor cars, that makes them interested in all sorts of things you have to explain beforehand. So, missionaries were doing a tough job to explain about God, about saints, about everything else that we treasure or used to treasure more. But they never got credit for what they didn't do that wasn't in the church way, But as it says here, it's not that it denies some missionaries deserve to be lashed. There really have been some missionaries that were a terror. That's what I've written in the book, because they were. I know that, from my own experience of other missionaries. But the missionaries I had personal experience of were always kind and good to me. And they never questioned what I was doing. Never. They just helped me when I asked them for their help, They would help. Mainly Van Bar, of course, in Tangu, and his brothers, and because he had a brother who was also a Van Bar, I don't mean a brother in the religious sense, I mean a brother, blood brother, who used to visit him from time to time. He was also a missionary. And we got on very well with each other. And he wasn't at all, what shall I say, condemning of anthropologists, although he knew he would be condemned by some anthropologists for just trying to make Christians out of them, which a lot of my colleagues thought was the origin of cargo cults, that they were puzzled by the Christians and the non-Christians amongst Europeans. And they didn't see any difference, except that the missionaries demanded some things, Otherwise, why be a missionary? I mean, you've got to persuade them to believe in God and Jesus Christ and so on, and Mary, his mother. And you couldn't be an atheist without having been a Christian first. I mean, otherwise you're nothing. I mean, you must be something before you become an atheist. I mean, because atheism is a denial of everything. But I thought I'd just write a book about missionaries to make their case for them, make a case for them, not their case for them, a case for them. And I thought I did quite well. But my colleagues, of course, thought I was letting them down and being a traitor to my cause and this and that. Many of them. Some of them didn't. They recognized it as a genuine anthropological task to understand what missionaries were doing, just as we like to understand what these native peoples are doing. So I thought I would do an anthropology of missionaries. But of course they're far out of my reach in many ways, because after all they do go back to Lafitau and all sorts of Frenchmen who came to Canada in the 17th century, for goodness sake, long before people talked about anthropology as a word, you know. So that's what I wrote about, you know. There's a long history, and they have written books about their own experiences amongst primitive people, call them primitive if you like, or savage people without writing anyway. Native peoples who couldn't understand because they had no writing, no books, no nothing. They just had themselves and their own traditions, which the missionaries wrote as far as they could about them. But why was this just a rivalry between one kind of ethnologist and another, you know? Because I think anthropologists are very jealous of their situation. They're not very well regarded in a university where they regard anthropologists as peculiar, you know, in a way. And whereas everybody else has thousands of years of scholarship behind them, anthropologists can only go back to the 19th century where they have the Golden Bough, you know, by rivers. Am I right?
By Fraser.
Yes. Well, so that's what the book is about, you know. I don't think I can add much more. I mean, so often you have to expand on so little. It's just that I thought, and still think, that missionaries have been underestimated and traduced in many anthropological works, because they are accused of ruining the culture for anthropologists to record. That's really, that last bit, for anthropologists to record. You know, they become rivals, and so they're in the way. And missionaries, of course, want to teach what the way is.
Any thoughts from here?
Pardon?
Any thoughts about the future of anthropology from your perspective?
I don't know about the future, because I think the future has been taken over by movies. People are not interested in looking at the literature. They're interested in the television, which shows them savages dancing, you know, and drums thumping along. That's what they like. And so all these, I mean, I'm not in touch, so I can't tell you what they're up to right now. I'm just not in touch, not because I'm not interested, but because it doesn't impinge on my life at all. I mean, up here, I can't go anywhere. I sit and look at the traffic on the river, on the inlet. I read a bit, but I've read no modern books on anthropology. I've not been asked to review anything. I think they think I'm dead anyhow, because all my colleagues have died. Why shouldn't I? Why should I be here? And why should Cyril Belshaw be here? We're two survivors of those days of Evans-Pritchard's Majesty and Fortes and Glackman and these great Africanists, you know. Nardell, they're all dead and gone. And nobody reads them anymore, I don't think. Perhaps they do in some lectures. I don't know what they lecture about anymore. So I'm quite ignorant of what the subject is about. The fact that I've written that people still interested in Mambu, and it still sells because, I don't know why, it's up to them, to these people who, Princeton University and these others, who see something good in it, you know, and who take it and whose students read about it. And my old students know about it. And I think they say something about it to their friends, and they say something to their friends, and so on. But I don't think there is the interest anymore, now that colonialism is a bad word, you know, and everywhere there are independent states fighting each other and killing each other. It's gone back to tribalism, in fact, in Arabia and these places. It's tribalism and your party, and that's the end, beginning and the end of it. And you make war on those who don't come. I agree with you. You can't, as we have learned how to do, to suffer fools gladly, you know. Yeah. So, what else can I tell you, I wonder? I wrote these books because I felt like writing them. Not because it was incumbent on me to write books, but I thought this one was worth reading because it's about cargo cults or millenarisms, because people were quarreling so much about what a cargo cult was, you know, and whether it had anything to do with Christianity. And of course it has. Well, it has to do with humanity, because we find that where people have been taught to be Christians, you have in some way a cargo cult, because they have a notion of something beyond themselves who may be helping them or hindering them. Someone up there, you know. And that's the point. And so you have a cargo cult because somebody up there will take notice of you and give you all these nice things. And the missionaries say, no, it won't happen. So, of course, they don't like missionaries because they knock the bottom out of the future, so to speak. Because it doesn't happen like that. And we know it doesn't happen like that, you know. I think we know. But you can't just sit down and pray and everything will be coming to you. You have to work at it a bit. So what questions are there?
Well, can you find a millenarian movement among Australian Aborigines?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they aren't as picturesque as other millenarian movements, but they do exist. But they're a peculiar translation of their own beliefs into present beliefs, you know, because the missionaries tell them that there is a God who's all-powerful. Yes, they say, we know that from our dream life, there is somebody all-powerful. Okay. But their version from then onwards is far different. It's just a traditional version of their traditions. And so they continue with their dancing and with their everything else. But they also, like many Melanesians, become European-like, you know. They wear European clothes, they go in for European sins, they have their own quarters in cities, and they behave like anybody else does. And I think Europeans treat them like they treat other blacks or have treated other blacks in this society here. As people who are strange and have different ways of thinking about each other and people they don't know. Yeah. They're not natural enemies, but they're somehow black people here are picked up because they've been poor and they're more likely to be criminals than white people on the whole. So police pick on them. And I'm not picking on them, I'm just saying that they don't understand. They're not educated. They don't go to school like we do to learn about things. They go to school because it's the done thing. So I don't think there is any solution to the color problem. It's always there. One is different from the other. So enjoy it. I could say, and I'm just saying that that we meet these people, these savages as we call them, or these primitive people, or these indigenous peoples, and they don't think of improving their lives. They think of themselves as having ancestors who gave them a life, and they're satisfied with it. And they go on and on and on and on through the ages with this life. But we don't like that. Now, when did that start? I think it started with Jesus Christ. See, then people started saying, we can do better. And we have gone on saying we can do better for all these 2 centuries, 2 millennia gone by. We can do better. And when we teach, go to primitive venues and try to talk to them, somewhere in the back of our minds we are superior because they don't want to do better. They're satisfied with their lives. And we are missionaries in a way ourselves because we treat them as children. We want to find out about them. We respect them all right as anthropologists. But we don't treat them as knowledgeable as ourselves, you see. And that is where it starts. We have knowledge and we kept it. And we kept it and we've added to it and added to it and added to it through 2 millennia. And this is not what they do. They're satisfied with their lives. And so they're not keen to change them. Why should it be unsatisfactory to do this? Generation after generation. You go into the mountains and you plant your crops and they get ripen and you put them in the public eye. You say, look at what I've done, which is what they do. And the man who provides the most gets the status and is the chief. Well, not chief sometimes, he's just one of many who are good at doing what they are supposed to do in life. But they don't think of doing anything better. Never. They don't think of machinery as we do, you know. There isn't a better life. They enjoy what they are. And we say, you should not be enjoying what you are. You should be wanting to be different and to get somewhere else. And they say, why? And then we are stuck, aren't we? Why do we want to be different and go on? Improving, as we think, on our lifestyle. I happen to think we've come to a sort of plateau at the moment. I don't think you can do much, except, of course, as the climatologists say, except we have to stop doing things. Well, I think I'm running hoarse.